The New York Giants have been one of the most fun teams to watch this year, but they're still not very good. So in this video, we are going to be trying to rebuild and do a mock-off season for the New York Giants. So as you guys can see, it's just me riding solo dolo, no B-Ross, no Cade. Both those guys are busy with the Thanksgiving holidays. We still grinding around here. We got to talk about the New York Giants. So 2025 was a interesting year, or I guess is an interesting year for the New York Giants football team, because in a lot of ways there was expectations for this team, but I don't think there was like this super high expectations for this year. So they fired their head coach because the season did not go their way, and I think they fired him for a very specific reason, that being the way the games played out. I don't think the expectation for this Giants team was to go out there and be a high-level contending team that makes the playoffs or does anything special like that. But in the way, the fashion, the games went down, with the fact that they were able to build these lead and look fairly impressive, and then as the game would go on, Daboll and the coaching staff would just get out-coached and out-coached and out-coached. I think that is the ultimate reason why he ended up getting fired in the halfway point of the season, right? I kind of think it was maybe a little bit unfair, but as time has gone on, I kind of more of understand as to why. You can see the numbers on your screen. They're 2-10 through 12 weeks of the season. They're 22nd in points per game, 11th in yards per game, and defensively speaking, they just fired their defensive coordinator. Thank God, he was bad. 30th in opponents' points per game and 30th in opponents' yards per game. And when you really talk about and think about this defense, the defense really has a lot of talent on it. Like, it's not a void of talent defense. Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence, Bobby Okereke, Abdul Carter, Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland. There are guys in this defense that are good, and this defense should be a lot better than 30th in opponents' points per game and bottom half in almost every single statistical category. It genuinely makes zero sense to me how they even got to this level defensively. So that's what we're going to try and fix up in this video. I do believe that a lot of the work the Giants need to do this offseason really is just with the coaching staff, making sure they hit on the right guys, because I do think there is a nice core group of guys here that can make this team really good in the foreseeable future. So with that all said, that's just kind of a bit of a background on the New York Giants. I now want to talk about who is going to be the next head coach for this team, right? I'm going to pick somebody in this video, but I also want to hear from you guys. So if you have a favorite who you want to be the next head coach for the Giants, let me know in the comment section below. So I went ahead and put up some of the big names here. These are a lot of the betting odds favorites. I'm talking Chris Shula, defensive coordinator for the Rams, Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator for the Chargers, Brian Flores, defensive coordinator for the Vikings. If you're looking for more experience and stability, Mike McCarthy, the former head coach of the Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers, their current interim head coach, Mike Kafka, which we'll have a bit of a conversation on here in a second. He might be the next guy up. And then Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator, and then Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator. So when you look at the history of the coaches for the New York Giants, it hasn't been pretty, to say the least, because of course, most recently it was Brian Daboll from 2022 to 2025. During that stretch, he was 20 for 40, 20 wins, 40 losses, not very good. Prior to Brian Daboll, it was Joe Judge, who 10 wins, 23 victories between 2020 to 2021. Then you had Pat Shurmur, Steve Spagnuolo, Ben McAdoo, and then, of course, the glory years with Tom Coughlin. I mean, this has been kind of a whirlwind, frankly, and I do think now they are in a position where this is maybe the best roster they've had in quite some time. They're way better than what their 2-10 record would indicate. Like, when I think of a 2-10 team, I'm looking at a team like the Tennessee Titans, for example, and I'm like, yeah, that's a bad 2-10 football team. Like, that's a bad team, right? The Giants have talent, and they hypothetically have their franchise quarterback too, and a lot of franchise cornerstone players. So to whatever head coach candidates out there, I think the New York Giants job would be very, very intriguing to go to. So I think there would be a lot of candidates out there, and I actually believe the Giants are maybe in a position where this might be the best job on the market, because hypothetically, if the Falcons fire their head coach, I don't think the Falcons job is that interesting. I don't think the Miami Dolphins job would be that interesting. In fact, I think it'd be kind of gross. The Browns job would not be great. The Titans job definitely would not be great. Like, you kind of just look out the list of potential teams that might be looking for a new head coach, and the Las Vegas Raiders too. Maybe Washington, maybe Cincinnati, maybe Arizona. Arizona would be a very interesting one, but the Giants would have to be one of the top ones out there, because you look at the team It has their quarterback, it has a running back, it has a wide receiver, it has some pieces on the offensive line, it's got a good defensive line, there's some talent on the defense, and I have a probably going to be top 5 pick this year. So there's a lot to like about this one. Now, in terms of what they are looking for at head coach, I don't know, right? If I was them, you've tried the offensive coordinator in Brian Dable. You tried, what was Joe Judge, a special teams coordinator? That was a bit of a weird one. I think this team would maybe be wise to look for somebody who has a lot of experience in terms of, like, he's been in the league for a while. Maybe he's had a head coaching stint once or twice or something along those lines. So that's really interesting to me, right? And when you look at the list of candidates, there's not a ton of like super experienced guys available right now, right? You do have Chris Shula, who I think is going to be one of the top candidates this year, coming from LA, coming from the Rams. They have a really good roster. They're potentially going to go on a championship run. That defense for the LA Rams is loaded with talent, but Shula's doing a hell of a job. I think he'd be great for this defense. Jesse Minter is one of the best bright young coaches in football. A little inexperienced, and that would kind of scare me for this team. But in terms of an actual defensive mind, I don't know if it gets better than Jesse Minter. Brian Flores is he's kind of the guy that I'm kind of leaning towards because he does have past head coaching experience, and I know it didn't go well for him, but I do think with this team, I think his personality might be a little bit better suited than what Miami was at that time. Then there's Mike McCarthy. We're talking about a guy that had multiple years with multiple teams and saw a lot of success, won a championship in Green Bay, led Dallas to a lot of success, 12-5 almost every year. He got fired because he just couldn't get over the hump. I know it would be kind of an uninspiring hire, but I do think this would be a hire that maybe could provide some stability, and it's not going to be a failure. Like, you can guarantee that with Mike McCarthy. So he's an interesting one. Then there's Mike Kafka, who is the current interim head coach. And what I will say is, while the Giants are not playing great, in the 2 games we have now seen from Kafka, I believe he was there for the Packers game and the Detroit Lions game. Both of these games, they were competitive with really good football teams, right? The Detroit Lions took them to overtime with the backup quarterback, right? Game versus Green Bay with the backup quarterback, it was 27-20, really tight matchup. This week versus the Patriots, it's going to be tough, but maybe Winston plays, maybe Dart doesn't play. If you keep it close, I think that's a pretty dang good job from Mike Kafka, given the fact he just took over the job and he's going up against high-level competition with a backup quarterback. The thing I will give Kafka is that in the back half of the season, well, I shouldn't say half, but the final 4 games of the season, you got Washington, Minnesota, Las Vegas, and Dallas. If he goes 4-0 during that stretch, I think there's a chance he does get the job, because I think that would give Giants fans a little bit of hope and confidence moving forward, especially if the combination of Kafka and Dart really works out. I think it's possible, and if I was to put money on it right now, I would probably put money on Mike Kafka being the next head coach, but I'm not going to make that decision yet. Then there's Clint Kubiak, one of the best offensive minds out there, was really good for New Orleans last year prior to all the injuries. Now is in Seattle doing a hell of a job for Darnold and JSN. If the Giants get Kubiak, every single fantasy league should draft Malik Neighbors like top 5, because Neighbors is going to get so much production next year. And then Joe Brady, who was a hotter name to start the year off, but now that the Bills have had some offensive struggles, his name's kind of cooled off. So if you were to ask me, Metro, who do you want to be the next head coach for the New York Giants? I'll give you a list. For starters, I think Kafka has the best chance. If we're talking a race here, he's in the pole position. He's in number 1, ready to take off. So I'd go Kafka, probably number 1. My personal favorite candidate, if it's not going to be Kafka, would be Brian Flores, because I actually think Brian Flores' mentality defensively would suit this personnel nicely, and his personality would, I think, really mesh well with Jackson Dart, Cam Scatterbo, the hard work and tenacity, angry, physical style. I think it could work for this team, right? If you want to go Chris Shula, I think that makes a ton of sense too. So my top 3, Kafka, Flores, Shula, then I'll throw Jesse Minter in there too. And then Clint Kubiak's also in the conversation. So I'm kind of cool with all these guys, but if you're going to tell me who do I get to pick, and again, I think the Giants will be able to pick whoever they want. My personal money would be on Kafka to get it. I would personally pick Brian Flores. I just think he'd be a good fit personality-wise. So that's it for the head coach. We're going to work this mock-off season with the intention that Brian Flores is their new head coach, right? It's not going to change the decisions, but just kind of roll with me here. All right. Next up, let's talk about some team needs. I think this is a really important kind of overview to look at what this team needs to do long term and what questions we have to answer. So I think the biggest thing this team is going to have to look at is the interior offensive line. You have your 2 tackles. Well, if you re-sign Jermaine Illuminor, which we'll talk about here in a second. But right now, John Runyon making a lot of money. It's not playing the greatest. Greg Van Roten is a free agent. You do have John Michael Schmitz in the middle. He's been okay. I do think interior offensive line has to be one of the biggest priorities of this team. Then it's wide receivers. So Wan'Dale Robinson is a free agent, and if you're able to bring him back, then I think that maybe alleviates this need a bit. But I do believe that Wan'Dale is going to make a lot of money in the open market. He's earning money what feels like every single day. And the Giants are not flooded with cash. We'll talk about their salary cap stuff here in just a second, but they're not really flushed with cash. So unfortunately, I don't know if Wan'Dale is going to be a Giant next year, which is a shame because he's playing really, really good, right? Then I think outside corner is a bit of a need here too. So Cordell Flott is having a really good year, but he is a free agent. And he's also kind of like Wan'Dale, about to make a lot of money. And I do think he could be a potential upgrade spot, right? Because you just paid Paulson Adebo, who you're going to keep long-term. At least you kind of have to. You just paid the guy. I think ideally somebody next to him would make a lot of sense. Like Deonte Banks has just not worked out for this team at all. I think schematically wise, he's just not there yet. And you have Andrew Phillips. You have Dane Belton you're developing. Or sorry, not Dane Belton. I meant Rico Payton, so I apologize. You have some guys in the back end who you want to kind of see out. Paulson Adebo, you got as one of your starters. You think you have somebody here with Drew Phillips who's been good. You need that other cornerback to pair opposite of Paulson and Drew Phillips. So that would be a need. And then I think safety could also be one, right? So you have Javon Holland, who, he has the flexibility to play strong safety and free safety. He could kind of play either role. But what do you do with Tyler Nubin, right? Tyler Nubin just hasn't been the greatest thing ever. Like via PFF, 59.1 coverage grade, 42.4 run defensive grade, which is just not very good. 23 receptions allowed, 39 solo tackles. I do think safety is a position where if we're in a position to upgrade that in the offseason, I think they should look at it, but I don't know if they will, right? So Nubin is a bit of a question mark. He's still a young player, and maybe this team would be okay sticking another year with him with a new potential defensive coordinator that might be better for his skill set. So that's that. And then linebacker. So Bobby Okereke, not having the greatest of years right now. He's not playing bad. He's still eating up a lot of tackles, but he's had better years. He's still a good quality linebacker that, you don't want to get rid of. He's making a decent bit of money, but you don't want to get rid of him because if you do, it just creates a bigger hole at linebacker. And they've had a ton of injuries in that linebacking position. Micah McFadden, who we have a decision to make about whether we bring him back or not. He was coming off a couple really good years, and I think Giants fans love the guy because he was a guy that worked his way into a bigger role and bigger money, but unfortunately dealt with an injury this year, so that does put a bit of a question mark to his name. Then you're also looking at Darius Massa, who hopefully I said that name right, but he's on IR. Chris Board also on IR, so linebacking core has been banged up. They're going to have to probably find something. We'll talk about that when we get to free agency and all that fun stuff. And then lastly, interior defensive line. So right now, Darius Alexander hasn't been the greatest so far, but I do think you got to give him a chance to, prove that he can be the guy. And I think just in general, the biggest need here is more depth than like a true starter. Rakeem Nunez-Roches is a free agent this year. You could bring him back for fairly cheap, but he is getting up there in age. So I do think probably finding another interior defensive lineman, could be something they look to do in either free agency or somewhere in the draft, or maybe you just bring back Rakeem Nunez-Roches. So with that all said, those are the team needs. We now got to talk about the salary cap because it's not the greatest. So the team is starting off with $17 million as of right now. And I want to make something very clear real quickly. I'm not a salary cap expert, right? I don't know every single minor detail about how the contracts will work, how you could spread out money to open up space. I am simply just using the platforms I can use, over the cap, spot track, whatever, to try and give you guys an estimate, an idea of what they might be able to do, right? So if I get some little financial stuff wrong, don't be too mad at me. I'm sure they can work it out in the back end. All right. Just want to throw that out there with you guys. So they're starting off with $17 million, right? We need to cut a couple players because this team has a number of guys you can cut and feel okay with. John Runyon, if you cut him, it opens up $9.5 or close to $9.5, $9.25 million. Devin Singletary, A signing that just hasn't really aged that well. And you have Tyrone Tracy and you have Cam Scatterbo. You cut him, you get $5.25 million. James Hudson, if you cut him, he's kind of just a backup. He can play multiple positions, but he's not starting for you right now. If you cut him, it opens up $5.5 million, so I would take that. And then the kicker, Graham Gano, who, has been good when healthy, but he's been injured like twice this year. I think he's been on IR twice this year. You cut him, you get $4.5 million, right? So just that alone earns you, I'm going to do quick maths here, that earns you over $20 million right then and there, right? Then there's the question of Kayvon Thibodeau. And I think this is a really interesting one because Kayvon has been having a really good year this year. Now, it hasn't really resulted in insane, sack productivity, but in terms of the run defender that he has turned himself into, it has really worked out for this team. And I think in an ideal world, you're able to bring him back because you do have that rookie deal, right? You do have that rookie contract with, your quarterback. Sorry, I was blanking there. And you have Abdul Carter, who's also on a rookie deal. So you can kind of afford to maybe hand out a bigger deal to a player that's playing very well, right? Kayvon is the perfect complement to Abdul Carter and Brian Burns, right? Burns being somebody who can absolutely fly after the quarterback. Abdul Carter being someone that can fly to the quarterback. You need that bigger, bulkier, run-stuffing edge player, right? I'm a Cowboys fan, and I know Giants fans are gonna be mad at me for saying that, but the Cowboys for so many years, you had Micah Parsons, who was a flyer, could move around. He was your Brian Burns, Abdul Carter. But next to him was DeMarcus Lawrence, who was that bigger, stronger, physical, run support up the middle. That's what Kayvon Thibodeau has developed into. And it's not like he's going to cost you an arm and a leg, nor is he bad at getting after the quarterback. He can get after the quarterback a little bit. Not his expertise, but he definitely can. So in terms of the contract, I don't have it on the screen. My estimate would be somewhere along the lines of 4 years, $100 million, or 5 years, $125, right? That would roughly be about $25 million a year. You can spread it out, however you want to do so. Maybe you backload it, maybe you front load it. However they might want to do it, I would probably front load it to have more money once you have to pay Jackson and Abdul Carter, but however they want to do it, they can figure that out. By extending Kayvon Thibodeau, that opens up $10.8 million. Again, via over the cap spot track. That's what they said. That's what I'm taking into account here. That is only $10.8 million towards this year. It doesn't carry over into next year. In fact, he probably has a pretty big cap hit next year. So, but it does open up $10.8 million, mainly because of signing bonuses. So we get a little bit of extra money now because we gave him that extension, right? Then we're also going to restructure Brian Burns. So I don't love restructuring players when I'm on a team that is rebuilding, because what that basically does is that spreads his money out over a bunch of void years. And, if he's not a young player, but he's also not an older player. So that's why I went ahead and did this. I just wanted to open up a bit more cap space to give this team the best chance to be competitive really quickly, like within the next few years, because that's what you're going to want from a head coach. And I think by giving Burns that restructure, it does open up a decent bit of cash, $14 million. That's enough right then and there to bring back a couple players that can help your team out. So in general, after all the moves, after cutting Runyon, Singletary, Hudson, Gano, after extending Thibodeau, and after restructuring Brian Burns, that is $66.3 million to work with, right? That all said, we do have some free agents we got to bring back. So while we got some money, we got to spend some money to retain some guys. So with that said, let's now talk about our team free agents. So these are the big name guys that are here. There's a couple other depth options, some other names that could be brought up here, but I'm going to let most of those guys walk, or we'll bring them back on really short-term deals that pay them a decent bit of cash, but nothing to really make note of, right? These are the big name guys. So Jermaine Illuminor, as you can see, we're going to try and bring him back. Greg Van Roten, I'm okay with letting him walk. He's getting up there in age. He's just not incredible, right? Wando Robinson, I'm going to have to let him walk because of how much money he's going to make. Cordell Flott is really fascinating. I'm going to let him walk, but I think just have some patience with me on this one. I know he's been really good. Have some patience. We're going to try and redeem losing Cordell Flott when we get to free agency. So losing Flott would be disappointing, but just have some patience here. Micah McFadden is really fascinating because prior to the injury, he was in line for a big time payday, talking like $10+ million a year. After the injury, though, I do think the Giants would be wise to bring him back, but on a very short-term deal. I'm thinking this deal probably has some sort of option to I don't know if player options, like I know in the NBA you have a player option. I don't know if the NFL can really do that. But if there ever was a time, like this year would be the time. That all said, I'm going to give him a 2-year, $10 million deal. It's a very short-term deal. It's basically a prove-it-to-me type of deal for next year. And then after 2026, if he's back on track, playing at a high level, then we'll give him that long-term extension, right? 2 years, that holds him in for another 2 years and make sure you get him here long-term. But then you can give him that extension if it does work out, right? So I didn't want to lose Micah. He unfortunately is an unrestricted free agent. You got to bring him back. He doesn't cost a bunch right now because of the injury, but I don't think he's going to want to sign a long-term deal, right? Unless you just are willing to pay him a ton of money. I'm a little bit more cautious. I'm going to give him like a 1 or 2 year deal worth about $5 million a year just to get him a little bit more money, but also save our ass in case he's completely washed, right? Because it is an injury. I think he'll be fine, but you never know, right? Russell Wilson, easiest walk of all time. I think if I re-sign Russell Wilson, I would probably lose 50% of you guys right now, and I don't blame you. And then Raheem Nunez-Roches, I'm also going to let him walk, getting up there in age, a productive pass rusher, but doesn't really do much as a run defender, and even as a pass rusher is not particularly great. So with that said, these are our free agents. These are the guys we're going to bring back. We're going to bring back Jermaine Illuminor on a 3-year, $42 million deal. That's $14 million annually. He is a little bit older in age, but my opinion, because you already have a ton of needs on the interior of the offensive line, I think the team would be wise to just say, okay, let's be wise here. Let's not lose a really good player. Bring him back. He can play tackle. He can play guard, and he's been really good this year. So I'm okay with this contract, even if he is a little bit of an older player. I think it makes a ton of sense. So we're going to bring back Jermaine. We're going to bring back Micah McFadden. Everybody else we're going to let walk. Again, maybe some smaller signings, the guys we did not talk about, but I'm not going to worry about that in this video, right? Those people, you can figure it out. If you want somebody to come back on like a short-term deal, if he's like a depth piece, then sure, go ahead. But we're not going to talk about it. That all said, let's talk about free agency, and we are going to begin with Jamel Dean. Now this, again, I asked for some patience after the Cordell Flott thing. Hopefully this one makes up for it. So Jamel Dean having an incredible year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now he's going to cost you a decent bit because he is taking a cap. I think he got his contract restructured or something like that. He lowered his contract for Tampa Bay. This is somebody that I could see just returning to Tampa Bay because I think he's pretty loyal to Tampa Bay. But if he does test free agency, I would be okay giving him a nice size deal. He can play outside corner. He can kind of move wherever you need him to play, but he can play wherever you want him at. I'm going to use him as an outside corner. 4 years, $90 million. That's an average of about 22.5 per year, right? He's got a 90.5 overall PFF grade, an 81.0 run defense grade, an 83.3 coverage grade. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think he's got a 99.9 pass rush grade as a blitzing corner. That's incredible if that's true, right? I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I believe I saw. 23 solo tackles, 3 interceptions, and has only allowed 16 receptions all year long. Because we lost Cordell Flott, because Deontay Banks has not worked out, we need that other guy opposite of Paulson Adebo. You have Paulson Adebo on one side. Now you have Jamel Dean on the other side with Drew Phillips playing inside as the slot/nickel. Javon Holland in the back end, and we might draft or pick up a safety in free agency. So I think that really helps out the secondary. He's a relatively younger player, but he already provides a little bit of leadership. I think this is an excellent pickup. I think he's going to be a very hot commodity out there in free agency. Next up is the only other big move we're going to make, because this move did eat into our contract a little bit. By the way, after we re-signed Jermaine and Micah McFadden, that moved you down to $48.3 million. So then after that, after you make the move of a Jamel Dean, you're now looking at about half of that with a little over 20-ish million, like $25 million to work with left. Plus, you also have to keep in mind, we also have to pay our rookie class too, and they have a first and a second round pick, so you got to pay those guys. So we have to leave a little bit of cap space for that stuff too. With that said, the next big signing we're going to do is going to be Isaac Seumalo. I apologize if I said that wrong. He's a little bit of an older guard, but my plan here on this offensive line, we have Jermaine Illuminor, we have Andrew Thomas, now we add Isaac, we have John Michael Schmitz, you have Marcus Mbow too, who could play tackle, and then maybe you've kicked Jermaine Illuminor inside. I want to build a veteran offensive line, and then start slowly drafting guys in the first or second round to fill in the holes of the offensive line while also developing, right? So we have all these veterans, but then you have, your John Michael Schmitz, your Marcus Mbow, and somebody we might take in the draft to develop to be the next generation of Giants offensive linemen. So in terms of Isaac, man, obviously former Philadelphia Eagle, now with the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're going to give him a 2-year, $18 million deal to come in and play guard for us, left or right. Probably more right. I think that would be probably his best place because obviously Evan Neal has not worked out. We bring him in, 73.7 overall grade, 80.8 run defense grade, 66. He's played 550 snaps, no penalties allowed. He's only given up 2 sacks this year. One of the best big guards up the middle that can just dominate other competition. Also, it says 66.1 coverage grade. That's a mistake. I mean, maybe he can play corner. I mean, maybe he might be pretty good at it. We'll just have to wait and see. Bringing him in, though, does give you a really nice addition to this interior offensive line. So after both those moves, you're looking at having about $16.8 million to work with. So this is where I kind of leave it up to you guys now. I don't really know where we can spend that money on. We have about, I don't know, maybe $5-ish million, $4-ish million to make a small other signing. So I think with that little bit of extra cap, maybe you pick up some depth in the interior defensive line. I don't have a name off the top of my head. So for you guys in the comment section below, with this little bit of extra cap space we're holding, again, about $3 to $5-ish million left, where would you spend that money on? Would you spend it on an interior defensive line? If so, do you have some thoughts and some names that we could consider? Maybe it's a receiver, maybe it's a tight end. Like, you let me know in the comment section below. I'm gonna leave that up to you guys. For the sake of conversation, we'll say they spend $3 million on just a really solid run stuffing interior defensive lineman. Not much of a pass rusher, but run stuffer, right? All that said, so as you can see, I'm on the PFF mock draft simulator. The New York Giants have the number 2 overall pick. We're going to do a 3-rounder here. I think we're going to do a few mock drafts here just to kind of give you guys an idea as to what they might be considering with their picks. With that said, I think on this first one, I'm not going to do a trade down, but in the next maybe 1 or 2, I might do some trade downs and some other possibilities. So we're up at number 2. Again, to kind of recap some things here, we just took an interior offensive line with Isaac. We have Micah McFadden back. We have Jermaine Illuminor back. We have Jamel Dean now as our outside corner. I think right now, the players that I would consider here, Caleb Downs, Arvell Reese, who I think Reese is a total stud. And then I think receiver Tyson, Carnell Tate, Micaiah Lemon, right? I think all those guys make a lot of sense. Because we're not trading down here, I'm going to go ahead and just take Jordan Tyson. I think this team needs a bit more juice. Without Wando Robinson, Darius Slayton has not worked out. You're going to need some other guys to pair with Malik Neighbors. And, man, Jordan Tyson, Malik Neighbors with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo, the future of that offense would be so bright. So I'm going to take Jordan Tyson here to add some pieces to our offense. Now we're back up in round number 2. Again, we only have 2 picks in this draft, no 3rd-round picks. So that's why we're going to do a trade down here in a second to hopefully get a 3rd-round pick. With the way the board fell, I like Amari Washington here. Really explosive first step, big size, get after the quarterback a little bit. Definitely really good against the run. I like that a decent bit. Caleb Lomu, if you want to play him at right tackle as he's developing, let him sit behind Jermaine Illuminor, and then 2026 or 2027, he starts at tackle. Jermaine kicks inside to play guard. I like that a decent bit. Jennings Dunker, if you just want a straight up guard, like if you want to get a left guard to pair with Isaac, and you have Thomas, you have Illuminor. I don't hate that one either. I don't need an edge. So Joseph, Czar Mason Thomas, I don't need that. I don't need corner. Safety, maybe. Not here, though. It's too early. I like Anthony Hill a lot. You can see I'm a Texas fan, obviously, but I think he's a great player, and I would love his fit next to Bobby Okereke. But you did bring back Micah McFadden, and you already have I'm going to mispronounce his name, Darius Muasau, how do you say his name? Mausau, who you took from UCLA a few years ago. I'm gonna go ahead and take the interior defensive lineman here, I think. Or you know what? Actually, I'm kind of falling in love with the idea of building this offense up. I think there's so much talent defensively here that it's got to work. It has to work just to get a new defensive coordinator. The question is, do I want Caleb Lomu or Jennings Dunker? Do I want Lomu to play right tackle and then kick Jermaine inside, who I think has maybe the higher ceiling? Or do I want a brawler? He's a tackle now, but I think he kicks inside to play guard. Really good run blocker. Excellent in zone. I kind of like Jennings Dunker here. I'm going to go Jennings Dunker. I'll put Jennings Dunker at left guard. I have Isaac Suamel at right, or however you want to work those guys out. I have my 2 interior offensive linemen figured out. We get some young pieces. We already have Marcus and Bo developing, so that kind of takes away Caleb Lomu. Yeah, we're going to take Jennings Dunker here. All right. So this is going to be our mock draft, just kind of our straightforward first one. We took Jordan Tyson with our first round pick, and then we took Jennings Dunker. Let's now go ahead and reload here. This time, we're going to do a trade back with the New York Giants. So first overall pick, Arvell Reese goes number 1 overall. I like that pick a lot. Now, I will say this. There's a lot of teams that could trade up. The Saints could trade up. The Jets could. The Raiders could. The Browns could. The Cardinals could. The LA Rams could. A lot of teams could move up for a quarterback class that's kind of top heavy. Like if these 3 all do go pro, it's going to be these 3. And I mean, maybe Jaden Mayava slips into like day 2 or something like that. But really, it's just these 3 guys who are going to be, guys who you're going to want to have on your team in round 1. The question is going to be, who would actually trade up to get one of these guys, right? I don't think it'd be the Saints. I think they're going to give Tyler 1 more year. The Jets are really fascinating because I think there's a world where the Jets just wait it out for 1 more year. I think that's a real possibility. I don't know if that's a great sell to the fans, but I think that is a possibility. Raiders, I just think that roster's so void of talent that giving up a more draft capital doesn't make a ton of sense. Browns make some sense, but they have to really rework that offense this year. And so that intrigues me. But the Browns might be in a situation where they say, I don't want to have to wait for a quarterback. We don't think it's Shador. We don't think it's Dylan. Maybe we just take one now. Arizona, if you get off Kyler, I think they would probably wait 1 more year. And then LA is extremely fascinating. I definitely do want to do a trade with LA. We'll do that maybe in the next one. We're going to do one more after this. I think we trade down with the Browns here. I think the Browns could be in a position where they say, you know what? I don't think Shador's the guy. I don't think Dylan's the guy. Instantly, you're looking at swapping first. I don't think you would take the 2 first this year, even if you did give up 34, something like that. I want a third. That's a major thing here. So give me a first and a third. And give me a first for next year. And we'll give up, I don't know, we'll give up 141. I think that's a pretty fair trade. You move up a few spots. You give up. Would they give up a first? You know what? Actually, I'll take that back. I'm going to put a second here. I know Giants fans are like, no, give us the first. They're moving up 4 spots, right? They're moving up 4, and you get a 3rd round pick this year and a 2nd round pick. Maybe it's a first. I don't know, right? I don't know. If it's a first, it's a first, but we're just going to do this trade right here. Again, the actual capital doesn't really matter too much, but in terms of I do get a 3rd round this year, and I do get, a really high top 10 pick here, so I don't fall too far back, and I get some extra picks next year. Again, it could be a first, it could be a second. I don't know. We're going to force this trade right here. The Browns are on the clock. They take Fernando Mendoza. We are now on the clock here at number 6, and we need a wide receiver. And again, I'm not going to overthink it here. We took Jordan Tyson once. Let's take him again. We have 3 we have 3 picks, not 3 first rounders. We have 3 picks now. We're going to take Jordan Tyson here to add to our offense. Now we're back up defensively, and man, Kristen Miller fell. I would have loved that here for the Giants. We took Jennings Dunker last time. I'm not going to do the exact same draft. That would be kind of boring. So we're going to go ahead. Let's look at defensive interior real quick. I like Amari Washington. Again, Dante Corleone. Not sure if I love him right here. Not a great board, if I'm being honest with you. Keith Abney, I like him a lot. Ooh, Austin Servold, I like him a lot. Especially to play guard. I don't hate that at all. I still think interior defensive line has to be a huge need for us, but I don't love the way the board fell. I would have loved for Kristen Miller to fall right to our lap, but he went right before us, which is so unfortunate. I mean, I will also say this. I think a guy like an LT Overton makes a bit of sense, although I think, did he go off the board too? Yeah, he did. He went to the Rams. LT Overton would have made a bit of sense there. Bigger stature, can play a 3-4 edge, can get after the quarterback a little bit. That would have been nice. All right, I'm going to tell you this right now. It's coming down to Amari Washington, Austin Servold, or one of the top linebackers, which I believe CJ Allen's still available. So we'll probably take CJ Allen here. It comes down to one of those 3. We did bring back Micah McFadden. Bobby Okereke is under the books till 2027. We could cut him after this year if it doesn't work out. I think long term that is a bit of a need, but I also don't think it's the biggest one right now. I'm going to go ahead and take Austin Servold. Kick him inside to play guard. He can also play tackle wherever you want him, wherever he works. We're going to go ahead and take that, and we'll feel pretty good about it. All right, we're back up at pick 70 here, And we probably could go, you see, interior offensive line just didn't fall our way. Dante Corleone would have been nice here, but he came off the board. Maybe there's really like a big edge we can maybe take. Danny Dennis Sutton, he's big, but not the big we're looking for. Derek Moore, more pass rusher. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, maybe Tyreek Sapp. Nah, he's big. He's more of an edge, pure edge, though. I don't mind Torian York, a little bit of an undersized linebacker, but very smart, very tough. What is he? 5'10", 227. That's pretty short. That's a little too short in my opinion. Whit Weeks, no, I'm not going to take him here. Jacob Rodriguez, give the man the Heisman, but not going to take him. I mean, we could go safety. Let's look at safety real quick. Rod Moore had an injury. Now will be out for a while. That's tough, man. He hasn't played a ton of snaps. This is my guy, B. Ross, is one of his favorite players. You know what? For B. Ross, we're going to take Emmanuel McNeil Warren, somebody that has good length, good size, 6'2", 202, runs well, good in coverage. I just caught up with his tape. You can kind of move him wherever you want him to. I think he's probably best as a box safety. I think this is maybe the guy you replace Tyler Nubin with. So we're going to take Emmanuel McNeil Warren here. And that's going to finish up our second mock draft. This was a trade down with the Cleveland Browns. You guys let me know in the comment section below what you think about this one. That all said, let's go ahead and load up one more, and it's going to be our final mock draft here. Again, I'm going to do a trade down here. Arvell Reese goes first. I talked about the LA Rams. Rams could be a team that want to move up potentially for a quarterback. They have the draft capital to do so. If I'm the Giants, give me 11 and give me your other first. It's going to be a late first, but give me your other first, and you could have our second. I think that would be the trade. Maybe some, like, I don't know, fifth. Throw some other stuff in there too, but that's what we're just going to go ahead and operate with. We get 2 first-round picks for 1. The LA Rams move up. In a hypothetical scenario, they would take a quarterback. They do. They take Ty Simpson. Simpson will be their, long-term plan after Matthew Stafford. We're up at pick number 11, and Carnell Tate is still here, and that's probably what I'm going to go ahead and take here. If we didn't take Jamel Dean, I would maybe consider Mansour Delane, but no reason to go him. Other than that, maybe you'd consider Caleb Banks, but no, I'm not going to overthink it. Go ahead and give me Carnell Tate. You pair him opposite Malik Neighbors, and we get another first-round pick. I love that one. All right, so we took Carnell Tate round 1. Now we're up at number 31, and Kristen Miller's here. This draft is really going well for me. All right, we're going to take Kristen Miller here. He can be that interior defensive lineman we've been trying to find. And then back up at 34, Jennings Dunker just went. That's a bit unfortunate. I think we'll switch it up here. We've gone offensive line a few times. I would also consider Austin Servold here again. Same with Caleb Lomu. We're going to switch it up, though. We're going to make it a bit different. Because we can't commit long-term to Micah McFadden, nor honestly Bobby Okereke, would be wise to maybe add another piece in there. We'll take CJ Allen here to add a linebacker, some more depth, and potential starter depending on how things go. So this is our third and final mock draft. Guys, let me know in the comment section below, what is your thoughts on everything we did in this video, the mock drafts, the free agency, all that stuff. Let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like and subscribe button. Road to 1,000 subscribers. Have a good day. Peace out.